My ex-fiancé quit his steady corporate job to chase his bucket list dreams, then dumped me in a cold text exactly 1 week before our wedding day. He vanished for 3 years, and just when I'd rebuilt my life with someone from our college days, he reappeared, begging for a second chance, only to discover I was already happily married to someone he knows. Hi. So I'm 30 now, and I was engaged to my ex-fiancé Felix, who's 34, when I was 26, so about 4 years ago. We were supposed to get married 3 years ago, but he dumped me over text a week before the wedding and took off to Germany for his dream job. Felix and I met through friends and had been together for 3 years before he proposed. He was a zoology major working as a professor when we met, and I always knew he had big dreams. He wanted to make a difference in the world through his work, which I really respected. When he got offered a role as a research specialist for a major project in his field, he took the job and left, without even telling me. 1 week before our wedding, he was supposed to go to Hawaii with his friends for his bachelor party, but he never showed up at the airport. A few hours later, we found out he was already in Germany and had decided to end things with me. He said he knew I wouldn't want to leave behind my life, career, friends, and family, and he didn't want me to sacrifice anything for him. But he also didn't want to give up his dreams. So, after months of thinking about it, he made the decision to leave on his own and not have a big emotional goodbye. That's why he ghosted me and broke things off over text. He said he was sorry, that I deserved better, but he had to follow his dream. Now, I never had an issue with him chasing his dream. I just wish he had talked to me first. I've always been an architect, and my main goal with work was just to earn money and afford the life I wanted. I never really cared about changing the world or anything, so maybe I didn't understand his priorities. Or maybe I was just someone who believed in basic communication and not ghosting your fiancé before the wedding. Either way, after he left, we obviously didn't keep in touch. All our mutual friends cut him off too. The breakup hit me like a truck. It came out of nowhere. I tried to pretend I was fine, but I wasn't. I completely fell apart. Felix did pay off all the wedding vendors as an apology, so I didn't lose any money. But since we hadn't talked since the breakup text, that was the last I ever heard from him. We had been living together before he left, and a few weeks later, his cousin Sam, who was 32 at the time, came by to pick up Felix's stuff. Felix had left a lot behind so I wouldn't get suspicious, and since nobody in his family really wanted to help him after what he did, he paid Sam $2,000 to collect and send it all to Germany. I'd met Sam a couple times at family events, but we weren't close, and honestly, he and Felix weren't that close either. Sam was a struggling guitarist in a small-time band and needed the money, so he took the job. When he came by to grab Felix's stuff, I stayed out of his way. But I must have looked really broken, because instead of just grabbing everything and leaving, Sam stuck around. He talked to me, and even though I didn't feel like talking at first, he didn't leave until I opened up. And once I started talking, I couldn't stop. I ended up crying in front of him. It was humiliating. But he stayed and comforted me. He let me cry it out and then told me I needed to be strong. He also said Felix was an idiot who didn't realize what he was giving up. That weirdly helped my confidence because Felix leaving had completely shattered my self-worth. Sam gave me his number before leaving and told me to call him whenever I needed to talk. He hugged me goodbye, and honestly, it was so sweet of him. He had no reason to do any of that, he was just there to do a job. But he seemed to genuinely care, and that really meant a lot to me. We started texting, and pretty soon we became good friends. In a couple of months, Sam became the reason I could smile again. I honestly don't think I would have made it through that heartbreak without him. He encouraged me to leave the house, go to work, and hang out with friends on weekends. And on the days I couldn't handle being around people, he would just come over and sit with me in silence. At some point, I realized I'd fallen for him. He started spending more and more time at my place, and one day, 2 years ago, he came over and just never left. That's how we ended up living together. Most people would probably say that it was too fast or kind of weird, but I don't think so. I really love him, and now we're actually married. So I guess we were meant to be. We finally decided to get married earlier this year, mainly for practical and legal reasons. We kept it super small and intimate, and that's exactly how we wanted it. We also made sure not to tell Felix. Everyone, his family, my friends, were given strict instructions not to say a word to him. We knew he'd find it super weird that I was marrying his cousin, and honestly, I didn't want to deal with that drama. Even Felix's parents came to our ceremony. They'd always been kind to me, even after the breakup, and they gave us their blessing. They promised to keep it a secret from Felix. But I wasn't sure they'd actually stick to that since they had forgiven him and were back in touch with him just a few months after everything went down. I didn't hold it against them, he was their only son, after all. But thankfully, everyone kept their word, including his parents, and made sure Felix never found out about our marriage. It's been a few months now, and honestly, life with Sam has been pure marital and domestic bliss. And Felix was right. When he said someone better was out there for me, he was absolutely right. Everything was going great, until last week. Out of nowhere, Felix showed up at my doorstep. I was completely caught off guard. I hadn't seen or spoken to him since we broke up 3 whole years ago. After that, he never tried to reach out or see how I was doing, and I never contacted him either. I heard through mutual friends that he came home a couple of times for the holidays, but we never ran into each other, and apparently, he didn't meet up with any of our old friends either. But this time, instead of calling or messaging like a normal person, he decided to show up at my door with a bouquet in hand. Before I could even say anything, he jumped into this long apology for how he messed up our relationship. He told me he was finally ready to fix things and wanted me to take him back. He explained that the research project he'd been working on had failed. They'd run out of funds, and it was unlikely they'd get another grant anytime soon, so he quit and moved back here for good. He said he regretted ever letting me go, especially the way he ended things, just a cold breakup text after everything we'd been through. At least he admitted I deserved better. Then, in full dramatic fashion, he ended his little speech by saying that now that he was back, we could pick up where we left off. He said he'd realized I was the woman of his dreams and breaking up with me was the biggest mistake of his life. He wanted to give us a real shot and even mentioned getting married soon. I let him finish without interrupting, mostly because I wanted to see where he was going with all this. But once he was done, I didn't say much. I just showed him the ring on my finger and told him I was already married. To Sam. His cousin. And that Sam was a million times better than he ever was. I told him it was too little, too late. His jaw literally dropped. I took that moment to shut the door right in his face. I was so angry afterward. I had to take a minute to calm down before Sam came home. It was the weekend, and he was out with some work friends, so I hadn't seen him all day. After his band broke up a couple of years ago, right around when we got serious, he started working with a friend's dad in their event planning business. If a client needed live music, he and his old bandmates would regroup and perform. It was the perfect setup for him. Anyway, it had been a rough week for Sam. There were a lot of last-minute event changes, so I didn't want to ruin his night out. I didn't text or call him. I waited until he got home, and then I told him everything that happened. He told me he'd gotten a bunch of calls from his uncle, Felix's dad, but didn't answer them while he was out. He figured he'd call back later. But now that he knew what was going on, he felt weird about the whole thing. He admitted he hadn't thought about how it would look to Felix when he found out. I told him that Felix's opinion didn't matter. He dumped me without a real reason or a proper goodbye. After that, his opinion didn't count. We decided to talk to Felix's parents since they'd both been trying to reach us while Sam was out. I hadn't answered either because I was still so upset. When we finally got on the phone with them, they told us that right after visiting me, Felix went to their house and completely lost it. He freaked out, yelling about how we all betrayed him by keeping the marriage a secret. He accused his whole family of being insane for supporting our relationship. He even called me disgusting for ending up with his cousin, like I only married Sam out of revenge. He said I was just trying to make him jealous, that I didn't really love Sam. According to him, I was using Sam as a prop, and now that the truth was out, he wasn't jealous, just disgusted. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. None of it was true. If I'd wanted to make him jealous, I would have done it years ago, not waited until he came crawling back just to reject him. And I'm not some obsessed ex who got married just to get under his skin. I love Sam. I'm with him because I have real feelings for him, not because I owe Felix some kind of twisted performance. So I didn't respond. Sam and I tried to move on and pretend Felix hadn't shown up. But then he came back, this time while both of us were home. We had just gotten back from work when we heard yelling outside. We looked out and saw Felix drunk and making a scene right in front of our house. He was screaming about how we ruined his life, which didn't make any sense, considering he'd only found out about us a few days earlier. As soon as we opened the door and he saw me, we knew we made a mistake. He started sobbing, like, full-on breakdown. He said he truly loved me, that he never stopped thinking about me even while living in Germany. He claimed the only reason he never contacted me was because he didn't want to disrupt my life. He said he could have accepted that I'd moved on, but not with his cousin. That part tore him apart. He called me selfish, shameless, and inconsiderate for marrying into his family. At that point, Sam called the cops. They came and took Felix away. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about what he said. It shook me. Felix was always the calm, logical one. It was strange to see him like that. But it was clear that seeing me with Sam had completely unraveled him. Sam and I haven't really talked about it. We're both pretending like nothing happened. But I don't know how long we can keep doing that. The truth is, we never really thought about what would happen if Felix came back. We didn't think about how he'd react or what he'd say. And maybe it shouldn't matter, but somehow it does. We've ignored my past with Felix for so long because he wasn't around. But now that he's back and making his presence known, it's getting harder to pretend he doesn't exist. Thankfully, things haven't gotten tense between me and Sam, but there's still a lot we're not saying. And honestly, I just want to sit down and talk about it, once and for all. I get why Felix is freaked out about me and Sam getting together. Honestly, if my ex married my cousin, I'd probably feel the same way. On top of that, his whole family knew and kept it from him, which could have completely shattered him. But still, that's not really my fault, even though I can't stop feeling like somehow it is. So yeah, I married my ex-fiancé's cousin after he dumped me over text just a week before our wedding. Update 1. Hey everyone, first off, thank you so much to everyone who responded to my post and supported us. It means the world to both me and Sam. We really needed those kind words to keep our heads on straight, especially with everything going on with Felix. It's been a week since the police had to take him away after he showed up drunk at our house and caused a huge scene. Now the whole family knows what happened, and many of them have reached out to tell us that we didn't do anything wrong. They told us not to listen to anything Felix said and reminded us that there's absolutely nothing shameful or disgusting about us falling in love and getting married. In fact, they called it beautiful and said we should embrace it, not let someone toxic ruin it. His entire family, even his parents, have cut him off. Not a single person is defending him, which speaks volumes. Sam and I weren't sneaking around or anything. Felix is the one who dumped me in the worst way imaginable. Sam helped me heal, and I have nothing to feel guilty about. I've also told my close friends everything, and they've taken my side too. They think Felix is just bitter and jealous, which helped me feel more at peace. Still, Sam and I agreed to start counseling. Dealing with Felix again stirred up a lot of unresolved feelings, and we want to make sure our relationship stays strong. Our first session is in a couple of days. Update 2. So Felix gave us a whole 2 weeks before he pulled his next stunt. This time, it was online. Last time, he showed up at our place acting wild. This time, he decided to trash us publicly. He posted a long, bitter rant accusing us of being together just to spite him. He claimed we were both failures who couldn't stand to see someone else succeed, and implied we bonded over our hatred for him. He even hinted that I was already involved with Sam before the breakup, and that Felix had just given me the perfect excuse to leave. That was a disgusting lie. I was completely in love with Felix back then. He broke up with me over text, so he could follow his dreams, or whatever. He didn't even give me the decency of a conversation. And yet, he expected me to wait around for him? That's some next-level entitlement. I didn't see the post myself. I've had him blocked on everything since the breakup, but a few of my friends saw it and sent it to me. I told them to let him know that if he didn't take it down, I'd sue him for slander. That's when he finally deleted it. But then he texted me. He said I deserve this, and called me a disgusting word that starts with W. That was my breaking point. I told him that if he ever contacted me again, I'd destroy his life and make sure he never recovered. And even then, he had the nerve to reply. He told me I deserved someone like Sam, calling him a loser with a guitar who's nothing without it. Then he said if I had found someone, he probably had someone hotter than me waiting for him, and that he had no regrets about dumping me. In fact, he wished he'd done it on our wedding day just to make me cry harder. I was stunned that he could even think that way, let alone say it. That's when I finally blocked his number. I hadn't done it before, just because I never thought he'd actually reach out again, and I definitely wasn't planning on texting him. But now, he's blocked for good. And if he ever shows up at my house again, I won't hesitate to file for a restraining order. Update 3. I took screenshots of our last conversation and sent them to his whole family and all my friends. Most of them had already stopped talking to him, but this just sealed the deal. Everyone was just as shocked as I was. Then his parents told us the whole story. Apparently, he started drinking heavily in Germany after failing at his research project and not being able to move on from me. So yeah, his behavior now kind of makes sense, but that doesn't make it okay. His parents said he'd been living in a hotel, but they recently brought him home because they were afraid they might lose him. They apologized to us for everything and explained that since he's their only child, they couldn't turn their backs on him. Honestly, Sam, and I get it. We don't hold anything against his parents. They've always been kind and even stood up for me when Felix acted out. If they want to help him, we respect that. Nobody wants to see something awful happen to him, no matter how messed up he's been. Sam and I are stronger than ever. Counseling has been amazing for us, and it's brought us even closer. We've even started talking about having a baby and starting a family of our own. I'm also in line for a promotion at work, and with a better salary, we're thinking of moving into a bigger house in a nicer area. That's where we're at now, and honestly, things are finally starting to look up. An hour later, I got a text from Daniel. He sounded deeply concerned about Lacey. If you don't reply within the hour, I'll file a missing persons report. I didn't have a choice. I responded, we're fine. Visiting my mom, like I said. We'll be back tomorrow evening as planned. His reply came right away. Good to hear. I've been worried sick. Give Lacey a hug for me. Just the fact that he mentioned Lacey made my skin crawl. I immediately turned off location services on my phone and deleted every app one suspected might be tracking us. We returned to Daniel's house Sunday evening, right on schedule. He greeted us with what looked like genuine concern, asking how my mom was and if our trip had gone well. I gave him vague answers, watching closely for any hint that he knew I was lying. While Lacey unpacked her overnight bag, I noticed a few changes in our bedroom. A small shelf I'd never seen before and a different lamp on my nightstand, both perfect places to hide cameras. But now I knew what to look for. I'd spent the weekend researching hidden camera types and had installed a detection app on a new prepaid phone. Daniel had no idea I wasn't his passive target anymore. I was preparing to be the one who brought him down. He wasn't the only one who could play the surveillance game. I intended to win. That night, I waited until Daniel went to sleep before I started my investigation. The app worked perfectly. Every time I got near one of his devices, it lit up like a Christmas tree. Just as I feared, both the new shelf and the lamp had tiny cameras pointed directly at our beds. But just finding the cameras wasn't enough. I needed to link him to the website. I needed proof that he was the one uploading and managing everything. The next morning, I called in sick again and waited for Daniel to leave for his volunteer shift at the library. As soon as his car disappeared, I hid my phone on the bookshelf with the camera pointed at his desk, where I'd seen him working late at night, responding to messages. But I almost had a heart attack when he suddenly returned. He'd forgotten his lunch. I was still adjusting the camera when I heard the key in the lock. Panicking, I snatched the phone and pretended to be searching for something under the bookshelf. "Everything okay?" he asked, his voice sharp. "Yeah," I mumbled, holding up a random stud earring I kept in my pocket for exactly this kind of cover. "Thought I lost this. Found it, though." He nodded, grabbed his lunch, and left again. But I could feel his eyes still on me even after he was gone. Later, I checked the footage. It worked. He was clearly shown logging into the website, responding to subscribers. But it was too dark. The angle was fine, but the lighting was useless. I needed better light in the room. So I came up with a plan I hated. I'd have to be nice to Daniel, extra nice. That evening, while bringing him coffee I'd offered to make, I accidentally knocked over the lamp in his office. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," I said, making a big show of cleaning up the mess. Daniel looked annoyed, but tried to play it cool. "It's fine. Accidents happen." The next day, I came home with a new lamp, brighter than the old one and perfectly angled toward his desk. "You didn't have to do that," he said, eyeing the lamp suspiciously. "I felt awful about breaking yours," I replied with a fake smile. "It's the least I could do after everything you've done for us." The words tasted like poison. That night, I set up the camera again. This time, it worked. Perfectly. The video captured Daniel's face as he logged into the admin panel, reviewed payments, and even uploaded new footage. I even got him chatting with subscribers, telling one about his special weekend plans the same weekend I'd taken Lacey to a motel. As I was retrieving my phone, a floorboard creaked under my foot. I froze. "Hello? Is someone there?" Daniel's voice called from his bedroom. I dashed to the kitchen, turned on the light just as he rounded the corner. "Just getting water," I said, pulling a glass from the cabinet, trying to hide my shaking hands. Daniel stood a little too close. "Can't sleep?" "A little stressed from work," I lied, forcing my voice to sound calm. He stared at me for a moment. I could tell he was trying to figure out what I knew. "Well, don't stay up too late," he finally said. "Those dark circles under your eyes are getting pretty noticeable." I nearly threw the water in his face. The next morning, I sent all the evidence to the detective Andrea had introduced me to: video, screenshots, photos of the camera locations. She called me within an hour. "This is exactly what we needed," she said, barely hiding her excitement. "We're working on the warrant now, but it'll take at least 24 hours. Can you keep things normal until then?" "I think so," I whispered, hiding in the bathroom with the shower running to muffle my voice. "But please, hurry." Pretending everything was normal felt impossible, especially when Daniel said he was taking us out to dinner to celebrate being like family. The way he looked at me made me wonder if he was onto me. Still, I agreed to go. On the way, I texted our location to the detective. At least in public, we'd be safer. Throughout dinner, Daniel kept checking his phone. Every time he looked at the screen, his face darkened. Whatever was happening with his website, it wasn't good. Something wrong. I asked innocently. Just technical issues, he muttered, silencing his phone. Maybe the police were already taking down his servers. That thought helped me make it through dinner. I stalled for dessert, letting Lacey finish an ice cream sundae the size of her head. As we pulled into the driveway, my heart nearly stopped. 2 unmarked police cars were parked along the street. Daniel saw them too. His hands gripped the wheel tightly. "Stay in the car," he barked, the mask finally slipping. "What's going on?" I asked, reaching behind me to unbuckle Lacey's seatbelt. "Are those police?" Before he could answer, Detective Rivera approached the window and showed her badge. "Mr. Whitaker, I need you to step out of the vehicle, please." Daniel's face twisted with rage and fear. He threw the car into reverse, but I was ready. I snatched the keys from the ignition and opened my door. "Lacey, come with mommy now," I said, helping her out. Daniel lunged for the keys, swearing. I managed to pull Lacey toward the porch as Daniel bolted toward the backyard. 2 officers took off after him while Rivera stayed with us. "Are you both okay?" she asked. I nodded, holding Lacey close as we watched the officers drag Daniel back around, handcuffed. His friendly persona was gone. He glared at me with pure hatred. "You lying bitch," he spat. "I gave you everything." I turned Lacey away and covered her ears, but she'd already heard. She looked up at me, her voice small but steady. "The red lights can't see us anymore, right, Mom?" I nodded, finally letting the tears fall. "That's right, baby. No more red lights." The next few hours were a blur. Police took statements and collected evidence, carefully removing cameras from our bedroom and seizing Daniel's devices. Detective Rivera told me quietly, "We found over 20 cameras so far." The website had nearly 500 subscribers. "This is one of the biggest cases we've ever seen." My legs almost gave out. 500 people had been watching us? "Try not to think about that right now," she said gently. "Focus on this. You protected your daughter. You stopped him." Lacey and I spent 2 nights in a hotel while the police processed the house. I had to return to work, and when I did, everyone already seemed to know. My manager pulled me aside. "I rearranged your schedule. Just mornings for now," she said, hugging me. And we took up a collection. She handed me an envelope with nearly $600, more than enough for a security deposit at Jessica's apartment. I broke down in the break room. "Thank you," I whispered through tears. "You have no idea how much this helps." Andrea hugged me too. "I didn't tell you everything about the site because I thought you'd think I was paranoid. My ex used to make me feel crazy when I caught him cheating. I should have just told you." Later, the detective called to say they'd found 3 more victims, past tenants who had no idea they'd been filmed. We started a small support group, meeting to share updates as the case moved forward. Daniel was denied bail. Too dangerous. Too likely to run. The prosecutor warned that the trial could take months, but the evidence was overwhelming. Some subscribers would also face charges, especially those who had requested specific content. Jessica and I moved into a bigger apartment the next week. The kids became like siblings. Having another adult around made everything easier. On the 1-year anniversary of escaping Daniel's house, I thought about doing something to mark the day. A little ceremony. Some sort of closure. But when I mentioned the date to Lacey, she shrugged. "That was forever ago, Mom," she said, rolling her eyes in that new tween way. "Can we go get ice cream with Jessica and Ethan?" "You promised." Looking at her happy, safe, and just a little annoyed, I realized we didn't need to honor the trauma. The best revenge wasn't anger or bitterness. It was living like Daniel had never mattered at all. "You're right," I said, grabbing my purse. "I did promise. Let's go." As we walked to the ice cream shop, Lacey reached for my hand, something she'd recently stopped doing in public. I squeezed her fingers and smiled. "Love you, Mom," she said quietly. "Love you too, baby," I whispered. No red lights. No hidden cameras. Just us. Finally free. Living life on our own terms.